Good morning. I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to this webinar on TAPS, which is our turnaround progressing system, making turnarounds easier. Not only is TAPS good for P6 in the turnaround arena, we can also use it in other applications and on other types of schedules. However, in this particular presentation, we are going to concentrate on turnarounds themselves. My name is Sue Hopkins. I am from Cheyenne, Wyoming. I am an implementation specialist here at Emerald. I have quite a few years of project and cost business administration. And I've worked on many different types of projects as well as in many different types of industries. Joining us today is Lynn Backstrom. She's going to do the hands-on part of the presentation. She is from Edmonton. She's also an implementation specialist here at Emerald, and she has many years of project controls experience and has a special what do I want to call it? A special interest and is very learned in turnarounds themselves. So when we talk about turnarounds or shutdowns or outages, whatever you call them, these are highly specialized projects. They mean several hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost production per day that the plant is shut down. There are also hundreds to thousands of skilled workers on site, along with some expensive equipment, of course. So that makes them really costly per hour. So for every hour that they're out there, we want to make sure that they're actually getting some work done and we're using them properly. Management, of course, because of these large numbers of dollars that are involved, want top visibility to these projects to make sure that they're going as planned or at least staying on course. Now we're finding in today's market that aging plants are the norm. They require a lot more repairs to the existing equipment that's actually out there. But as we're moving forward and technology is getting better, we're looking at technology updates to improve that computerized monitoring and things of that nature. So we end up seeing a lot more capital projects that are tying in during those turnarounds windows. We're also seeing longer periods of time between turnaround events, with maintenance cycles being extended out and pushed out even further. So this really means that we're seeing larger turnarounds with more work to complete in a shorter outage window. Excuse me. There are also less experienced pools of resources that are available. We're finding those skilled trades are getting harder and harder to find because we have, the older people aging up and retiring, but we don't have the ability, or we don't have those younger people coming into these skilled trades. So they are getting harder to find. So that really poses some problems. And of course, what does that make trouble for? I mean, what do all these factors affect? It really creates huge challenges for our planners and schedulers. Projects are getting more complex in the number of tasks that are needed, as well as with more tasks becomes more resources needing coordination. Of all of which of these need to be done, right around in a month's period of time. So this means your scheduling is really getting more and more important as time goes on. Producing fast schedules, quick schedules, is really crucial, and making them accurate. It's crucial during a turnaround. This can be difficult with the thousands of activities that we need to progress at the end of each one of the shifts. You really can't afford to waste time searching typing in the progress, rechecking your activities. And with so many activities to update, it really is quite easy to make unnoticed mistakes that could affect your data going out to your managers. So we really need to find something like TAPS that can help with that. So earned value is something that we want to look at in our turnarounds. How are our crews doing? How are they performing against that plan? We can, with TAPS, we automatically calculate that earned value at the resource level. So that really helps you to see where your problems are, where they're occurring, and where you really need to improve your delivery. And really, and all this is done, of course, with 2 scans: your scan of your activity and the progress on your activity. Now, another thing we deal with in turnarounds are canceled work and just controlling the scope in general on a turnaround. You open up your equipment, you find extra work. You also find that work that's not necessary. TAPS lets users cancel work, again, with 2 scans. We've had one of our clients tell us that we have saved them 5 minutes per canceled activity because it only takes 2 scans to cancel it. They don't have to go out and find the activity and store the information in there, zero it out, and things like that. So it's really saved them a bunch of time. So imagine going from 5 minutes to 5 seconds. This is huge in saving your work time. Adding scope is another thing that we end up having to deal with. And we have a tool called P6 Loader that can actually add scope quickly into your schedules as well as your baselines without having to detach those baselines or use the updater provided in P6. So that tool is really great for adding scope into your projects. With updates done so quickly and efficiently, your team is going to have the proper time to analyze and optimize work for that next shift. Also, they can get working on those reports for management much sooner. So they don't have as much stress on them to try to hit that deadline. You're going to have that time to be able to analyze and create those reports. So I want to do a quick poll question at this point. I'm going to go ahead and display it on the screen here. And if you can just mark it and let me know kind of what you're seeing on how long it's taking to update your progress for each shift. It looks like I have a couple that are over 2 hours. So that's huge. That's a lot of time that people are spending just doing updates on a particular on a particular shift. So if you think of that for every 2 shifts, think of the time that you can save there. So let's talk about our benefits that we can realize from TAPS. You can avoid a lot of stress. You're getting much better results throughout your turnaround. You're not struggling for 2 hours trying to get that next update in. You're actually going to save that time, probably 45 minutes or less in scanning, as opposed to the couple of hours that it's going to take you to update manually. And of course, that's going to, because it's going to save you that time, instead of coming in at 4 a.m., maybe you can come in at 6 a.m., still do those updates and get that analysis done and those reports out. So it's going to save you on overtime. And of course, frustration. Where do we have our problems? Where are issues? Finding that and trying to get that stuff out and analyzed and out there to your resources so that they can finish their pieces. So really, TAPS is a key tool for delivering effective turnarounds. How does TAPS work? Well, we can deploy TAPS either in the cloud or on premise. If you wanted us to maintain it, we can put it in the cloud, we can hook it up to your P6, or we can actually do it on premise and connect it there. We also have a mobile app that is available for TAPS. So we have those options in when we're talking about TAPS. So the first step after you've got your schedules ready to go for your turnaround is you're going to generate some work reports from P6. These reports come right out of P6. They can be customized to fit any company's needs. In fact, you probably already have reports that you send out to the field. It really doesn't take a whole lot of real estate to add in a barcode on those reports. So you could add them to those. Or you could make them as complicated or as easy as you could possibly, dream of. So it really is up to you what these reports look like. And so the goal is to enable those foremen to quickly and easily update those activities right on the paper, and then send it back to you. So it's really easy to get that progress documented and back to you. The second thing is printing a percentage report from P6 also. Now, these are barcodes that you're going to use to do your percent complete scanning. You would only have to probably print these once, of course, at the beginning of your turnaround, and then distribute them to those who are actually going to be entering the progress. So whether it be data clerks or your supervisors or whatever, they would keep this in their office basically, and you would only need to print this report one time at the beginning. Once the reports are from the field, the progress reports come in, they can go to whomever is going to be entering that progress, and then it's easy as just scanning the task and scanning the progress. Very, very simple, very, very quick. On one turnaround I was on, it literally took 2 schedulers less than 45 minutes per shift to put in their progress. This allowed them much more time to analyze and prepare those reports. And again, they weren't coming in at 4 a.m. to get that progress put in. Once the progress is scanned, it comes into TAPS. And what it looks like is you have your activity, and it has your information about what you scanned in. So you can quickly scan this, make sure it looks okay, and then you can submit your progress. Then go into your schedule, refresh your data in there, and you can see in this activity percent complete column that now we have our progress entered, and we're ready to start analyzing these schedules and see how we're doing. Now, one thing, just as a side note, that I want to address is some dashboards. Most of the time, a turnaround manager really needs some kind of consolidated, rolled up information so that they can quickly and easily identify those areas of concerns in the turnaround. So when they go into their big meeting, they really have a good handle on this. So management really likes to see these types of dashboards. And we have a tool, EP Data Warehouse, that can actually, once you get your progress in, you've analyzed it, and you're ready to snapshot, you can snapshot for that particular shift. And it's going to come out into these dashboards, and your managers can very quickly look at these and see where the problems are. I mean, they're color coded. You can see that red, obviously something is awry with that. They can just drill down and find out, from just this dashboard where things are maybe going sideways, and how they're going to be mitigated, so to speak. So we've got an inspection summary report as well as a couple of green ups that I have examples of. These were made in Tableau, but we do have, we can actually do dashboards in many different types of tools. And Mary Lynn is going to show you one of the other tools in her piece of the demonstration here. So another poll question I would like to put out here. How many activities do you update each shift? If you just select that, I can kind of see where we're at. And okay, so we've got, it looks about like 50-50, less than 1,000. And then we have about half that also do between 1,000 and 500. So imagine, doing that 1,000 activities, right in the middle there. It's going to save you a lot of time just by doing 2 scans on each one of those activities instead of searching and going to get, finding those activities and putting that progress in. Also, it's going to be much more accurate. So with that, I am going to hand it on over to Mary Lynn, and she's going to show us a hands-on demonstration of this TAPS tool.
Hey, Mary Lynn, I'm just not sure if you have your mic unmuted.
I do have it unmuted.
Oh,
I need
Perfect.
somebody to pass me control though, please.
Mary Lynn, I think you have to take it back yourself. I can't pass it.
Oh, my apologies. Okay, can everybody hear me okay? I will just go into a screen share here so that we can see a little bit of P6 and a few that. Okay, so first of all, in most cases, this is just a small example of a turnaround schedule. It's not the complete size that you would normally run into, but for demonstration purposes, we've taken it down a few notches. But I've got some progress in the file. And if I go through here, you can see there's a lot of activities that have yet to be completed. So what I'd like to do is walk through putting some progress in using the functionality in TAPS. Now, when you're putting progress in manually, of course, everybody I'm sure is very, very, very familiar with a case where if I was going to update an activity, I have to go find it. I have to go in, I have to give it actual start, actual finish. I have to give it durations, whatever the remaining duration, whatever the applicable status is. When you have to make a stop at each activity that you have to update, that can get extremely labor intensive and time consuming, to say the nothing of being a little bit frustrating. So let's go over to TAPS. And let's log into TAPS and have a look at how we can put some progress in using this tool. Now, when we log into TAPS, you can see that we've got a few different options that we can set. Now, update time, I need to set my data date. That basically is what this update time is all about. So I'm just going to set it for the beginning of shift on the 7th of September. Now, we've got a couple of other options here. Now, you'll notice that update milestones is on by default. You're probably wondering, well, what does that do for me? What it does is if I have a milestone that is attached to an activity that I complete, I don't have to scan or go in and progress that milestone. It will automatically set it to complete. Now, it might not on the surface sound like a lot, but I've been involved in a lot of cases out on turnarounds where this was not the scenario where the updates were being put in. People miss milestones, and of course, milestone reports quite commonly go to management. So if you have to go through each time and double check or triple check that all the milestones have been updated in accordance with the progress you've got on your activities before you issue these reports, that can be very time consuming. And of course, the other scenario there is what happens if something gets missed? This way, if there's a milestone attached to your activity, you complete it, you don't have to worry about missing it. Now, also, you'll see that by default, you've got run out of sequence report. Now, yes, this is the same scenario as you see in the scheduling report, an out of sequence report. It gives you a list in the schedule dialog right in P6 of that. This gives you barcodes as well. So it makes it even that much easier, that much faster to actually fix the issues. Now you have one that is off by default, dissolve canceled activity logic. Now Sue mentioned that we do handle cancel activities, and we'll walk through that in just a couple minutes here. But what the software also has the ability to do, it can cancel the activity, but it can also cancel it and take care of dissolving logic to and from that activity if that fits with the scenario that you want it to use. So what I'd like to do now is show you just one simple update, first of all, and we will come back to this a few times, because there is a few different scenarios I want you to be aware of. So if I go in and scan my first activity, so there's my first activity. As Sue mentioned, tells me it's duration % complete type. Currently, it's not started. Well, this particular activity, we've finished. So one scan, and it's set to completed. Now, I've got another activity. This one's also completed. Now, I have a third activity we'll put through with this update. This particular activity has been canceled. Now, as Sue was saying in the intro, you'll notice that canceling an activity, I scanned it, I scanned canceled, that's all I needed to do. So from here, all I need to do is save progress. Now, we did say that we wanted out of sequence activities. It's telling me that I missed something here. So I've got the perfect opportunity here to go back and confirm, was this activity done? Is it actually truly out of sequence? Maybe somebody missed it in an update, those types of things, to confirm that you've got the right information in your schedule before you start issuing reports. Now, if I go back to P6, and I'm just going to change layouts here, I've created one that'll make it a little easier, a little quicker for us to see what is actually going on with the updates themselves. So if I go in and I refresh, you'll see I've got some progress, of course, coming through here. And I also have something that makes it very easy to find out of sequence activities. So I've got the progress that I put in here. So I've got 701 is the first one that I scanned. That one is 100%. Now I also have 721 was the second one that I scanned. And I do have, of course, the out of sequence activity that, if I look at the logic here, is the one that's in between. So I've got something I need to definitely deal with. But you can see really quickly from there that putting that information in that quickly, I've got lots of different pieces of information happening for me in the background here. So I've updated 701, and if I go into status, it's 100% complete. I go into resources, and we'll be visiting these pieces a little bit more as we go through another update here. But you'll notice that I have got earned units, earned cost at the resource level. Now, you may think, well, you don't really need it at the resource level. Not completely true. Some companies that I've dealt with have a situation where they create their schedules, one activity, one resource. I've seen it done. It is not really the true way of scheduling. Normally, you want all the resources on the activity. You need to complete the activity. You need all the resources required for that. And as a result, sometimes you're going to end up with crews from a couple different subcontractors or different people's crews within your own company, that sort of thing. And something starts falling behind. Well, you need to dig deeper and find out, where's the problem? What do I need to do to help? So that's some of the piece that this can definitely help with. Now, when we get to canceled, okay, I have a canceled activity here. Now you'll see I canceled this one. It's been set to canceled. And if I go into a layout to show you some of the information that the canceled piece will give you, it'll make it a little easier to see it here. Now, we've got in the new version the ability to show user-defined fields. Well, I've added the user-defined fields, a few of them here, just to show you. You can look at them in the user-defined fields tab, and you can also, of course, use them in columns. So if I want to look at my canceled activity, I've got an icon that tells me that the activity is canceled on. It tells me what the original duration was, what the budget labor cost, and the budget labor units. Now, if I go into my resources, you'll notice this information is held at the resource level as well. So that makes it very easy. Should you need to, number one, generate reports on canceled information, and number two, if you come across a situation where you've actually canceled something and you need to, and I know this isn't good English, but uncancel it, in other words, reverse what you just did, you've got the information to do it. So it does very quickly, as you've seen, it does catch the information, it does store all this information in the background for you, and you're ready to rock with all the rest of your information. So the next thing I'd like to do here is I'd like to go back to tabs, and I'm just going to go back. Let's put a second update in here because there's a couple of things that you really haven't quite seen yet. So I'm going to go back, and you'll notice I said back, so I do have to reset my data date. Now, I'll set it to being another update for the same time frame, but you set your data date here. In other words, for example, in a turnaround, you could well be doing 7 a.m., 7 p.m. updates, that type of thing. So if I want to go and update some more activities, first one I want to do is I have the activity that was in my out of sequence report. So we've done our due diligence on that one and found out that this one is finished. So I'm just going to complete that one. But I've got a few more updates that should actually go in before I start issuing reports. So what I want to do here is I need to update some more activities, but you'll notice this next one I've scanned is physical percent complete. Yes, you can update units physical duration percent with tabs. I'm not suggesting you will necessarily run into this on every turnaround, but don't forget this tool is very useful on any schedule. So if I go into update this particular one, it is physical percent complete, so I'm saying 50%. Now you'll notice that I can scan duration percent complete as well. Now they're telling me, yes, this one is 50% done as far as duration goes as well. Now, if I put the next activity in, it's units. So this particular one, 50%. Again, you can scan the duration, and I'll just scan 50 in there as well. I can scan a different one if I need to. Now I've got a couple more to update here. So if I go to the next activity, this particular one, 75%. Now another activity, and notice how easy it is to scan these. This particular one is duration as well, and it's 50%. So if we want to send that information across, I can, again, save progress. I do have an out of sequence activity. So I could, at this point, go back and scan my out of sequence activity and send it across, or I can go and look at my schedule before I do that, depending on what pieces you're missing. Now, I'm just going back to the layout that is after updates, and let's see what kind of information we have in here now. You'll see everything from our second update has been sent across to our schedule. So we can go in and we can look at all our different pieces of information. Now, any of these particular activities, we have our 75% one, and you'll notice it goes through and does the calculations as far as this particular one is duration percent. Right now, we are having the calculations controlled at the project level. So we also have the 50% one. So we've done our updates on this particular updated information that we sent across. Now, we do have a piece of functionality here that I did mention at the start is a very interesting one. So let's go in and send one more update at the activity level. So if I go into set my data date, very simple to do that. And for example, if I missed something, I can go in and I can definitely scan my out of sequence. And if it's complete, post it complete. But the other piece that I wanted to look at here is if I go into my remove scaffolding, this particular activity has a milestone attached to it. You notice we do have the functionality for updating milestones. So if we complete this activity and we push these two updates across, now if I go back into my schedule and I refresh, you'll notice I never scanned this milestone in. What I did was I completed the activity that this one is connected to. So it is updated using that particular feature that we have. Now, I do have a couple of other pieces that I do want to show you, and I don't want to get too far up against the time frame here. So what I wanted to show you next here, and just before we do that, my apologies, I should have showed you one more layout here. We can see our canceled work, we can look at our updates, but there's another layout that we wanted to have a look at here, which is earned value. So we have information available on our activities. For example, here's our remove scaffolding that we completed. In the user-defined fields, we can see the information. We can also look at status. We can see all of that information in our earned value pieces. So we not only have the earned value at the activity level, but we also have the ability to look at our earned value at the resource level. So depending on what you're doing, you go back, you schedule it, you can capture that information. And as I was saying, you can make sure that if you're looking into issues, you've got the right issues, you've got the right information for that. So one of the things I want to have a look at here is there is 2 new pieces in TAPS. Now, these 2 pieces are really, really handy in some circumstances. Now, the first one is I want to show you a slightly different scenario here. And as I said, please bear in mind that you may use this on a turnaround schedule, but don't forget this update tool can also work on non-turnaround schedules. So if I go and I scan my activity, and I've got an activity, I'll scan some resources in for you. So I've got a resource scan example activity that I've set up. So what happens if I actually wanted to scan my resources in? Very simply, it's not hard to do at all. So I could scan my first resource and I can say my actuals, and I can scan remaining if I like as well. Now, any of the time that you scan any of this information into TAPS, one thing to be aware of here is I can go back and I can type in here if I've got the wrong number, or I can go in and rescan and scan the right number. Whichever approach you find is going to work best for you. Now, I'm on pipe fitters. Again, I can scan the actuals and I can scan remaining. So I can send progress over to my resource activity. So if I want to send this information over, again, save progress. Now, if I go back into P6, and I need to go down to the bottom, I've got this one kind of hiding a little bit on its own here. Now, if I go in, you'll notice right now you're seeing no actuals. Well, if I refresh, you'll see the scans that I put in have come in at the resource level. Now, this will allow you to scan. In some cases, I've worked some projects, mostly outside the turnaround scenario, where you do want to update actuals remaining on a resource by resource basis. And this is definitely a lot faster than having to go and key the information in. Now, we do have one more new piece of functionality, and this is, it's not that the resources aren't cool, they are, but you're going to like this one as well, at least I do. So if we go to our TAPS again, and I'm just going to clear everything out so that I can scan one more item. So what we're looking for this time is I want to scan steps. So I have an activity that has steps on it. And what you need to do, of course, is scan your activity and then scan your steps. So my apologies, this one is one that I have actually updated. Bear with me 1 second. We will get this all fixed up. Now, when you're updating steps, one of the things that I find is updating steps. Steps are really awesome, but what happens is if you have to go in each time and click off each one of these steps, people kind of lose interest in actually using that functionality. So I'm just going to take the progress off of here just temporarily so that we can see how the steps will handle this piece. So I've got steps, and you can see I've got some weights in here. So I'm letting it control the activity as soon as I switch the project level switch on, but you can see these particular steps are on this activity. Now, what I need to do here is refresh, and let's go have a look in tabs. So if I scan my activity, and I want to update this particular one a little differently than what we did the first time, and I want to use steps, I can go in and I can scan a step, and I can say, is it complete? Is it not complete? So this one, 50%. Now, if I scan another step, I could say this particular one is complete. And I could scan a third step, and I could say this particular one is 50%. Now, you can scan whatever percentages you need to on them. And now what I can do is I can save that progress. So once I've pushed it over to P6, let's go back to P6, and I'm just going to refresh this. So we've completed one. We've set the other two to 50%. Now, the thing to be aware of here, of course, is these are steps. I've got this set at physical percent complete. Well, you're probably looking at this thinking, okay, TAPS didn't do what it was supposed to do. Not quite true. TAPS did exactly what I told it to do. So what I need to do at that point is go over to my project itself. And when I click on my project, this is the key to having the rest of it calculated. I say, yes, I want to recalculate this. And I go back to my activities. Now, if I look at this, you'll notice I do have my percent is actually showing up in there. So I can actually go in and I can update these, and I can have it control the percent on the activity that if I want it to. Now, you also have the option, I've worked schedules many times where we use the steps. You do need to progress the steps, but they were more of a controlled list than anything else. They really didn't want that controlling the percent complete on the activity. So you've got all those different options available to you. So without pushing this, sorry, I don't want to end up with pushing us over the time limits. I hope you've seen enough that you can tell how easy it is to update schedules with TAPS. Now, personally, I've worked turnarounds where we've used TAPS, and it made updates so easy that we didn't have any problems getting reports come in at 4 o'clock in the morning, get the updates done and the analysis, and have a big management meeting at 6 o'clock, and you were comfortably ready to rock before then. With the amount of updates that we had on these projects, had you not had TAPS to get those done, you wouldn't have had enough analysis time on these huge projects to be able to be really certain that nothing got missed in the meantime. So what I'm going to do now is pass control back to Sue.
Okay, let me get to the proper slide here. Nope, that's not it. I apologize. Okay. So let's talk about some benefits of TAPS. TAPS has been on the market for quite a few years now, and we have a lot of clients running TAPS. So we've been able to really get some good information from the client side about what the benefits have been for them using TAPS. For users, of course, we're going to save them a lot of time. In fact, TAPS is so easy, you don't even have to have your schedulers do it. You can save them to concentrate on their analysis and their reporting. We have places that are using, or clients, excuse me, that are using data entry clerks. They're using even summer students in some cases, which are much cheaper per hour of their time than your scheduler. So what it does is it also relieves some of that stress. You're not trying to frantically get in those updates while the clock is ticking because you've got a meeting in 2 hours. And then you get everything done, you think, and then the printer jams and everyone gets all stressed out and you're not sure it's right, but even though it might be wrong, you're going to send it out because you have a timeline. I think that the majority, if not all, schedulers have experienced this. And so what this does is really help with your stress level and maybe even some overtime there that is going to help you out. We've had clients, again, like I said, use summer students who cost them a much cheaper rate per hour than a scheduler. We have asked one of our clients, as you can see here on our slide, to estimate to quantify how much do they save per turnaround. And their calculations were $138,000 per turnaround using TAPS, as opposed to bringing in more people to do the work. TAPS, of course, is more accurate. You don't have to worry about someone mistyping an activity ID when they're searching and clicking into something wrong and updating the wrong activity. You get better information because you're not having that keying risk that somebody's going to fat finger something and not get it in properly. You're also getting more visibility into your schedule because you get that earned value piece that TAPS is automatically calculating for you. And then you're getting those reports out faster and they're much more accurate because you've used TAPS. This makes your management happy. They feel more confident in what the information that you are supplying for them. You're getting better schedule accuracy, like I said, which also lends itself to better crew forecasting. Your out-of-sequence activities are being identified right up front in TAPS when you submit your progress, and you're getting that earned value at the craft level. So you can drill down and see, why are we behind in a particular unit? You drill down and you look at it and you say, oh, it's because the Boilermakers are having some trouble. They're having to spend a lot more time in this one vessel than we anticipated, and then you can decide what to do about it. Are you going to bring in more people? Are you going to shift some crews? What are you going to do? You have the leisure to actually think these through and decide what you want to do with that. So you can see all these things very quickly with TAPS. Here's a page with some quotes that we've gotten directly from our customers. I really like I'm now faster than the checkout clerk at Walmart. That made me laugh the first time I heard it, because you really do. You get to where you are very quick at scanning your activity, your progress, your activity, your progress, and moving forward like that. Another one that I really do like is TAPS, and it's not on here, but TAPS allowed one scheduler to handle 2 updates per day and still have sufficient analysis time before issuing reports, when the original plan of 2 schedulers on the turnaround did not pan out. So essentially, they had one scheduler fall through, but the scheduler that they did end up hiring was able to handle it all by themselves anyway. So I think that's a really great story to see how much, you know, you really can cut down on hiring extra schedulers. So we have clients pretty much all over the world. So we have some case studies here. These are some of the clients, just a smattering of them, that we actually have using TAPS on their turnarounds. They are all over the world. They, you know, of course, a lot in Canada, US, we have some in Australia. So what is really great is that because schedulers move from one plant to another, you know, they tend to move on. If they've used TAPS at one plant, they take that with them and talk about it at other plants. So we get a lot of customers by word of mouth. So that really is a great thing for us to know that it really is helping them, and we're actually gaining customers as they move along into their new plants. Just a brief discussion about Suncor. They are an energy company, of course, located in Calgary or based in Calgary, and they do production of specialize in production of synthetic crude oil from oil sands, and they own the Petro-Canada chain. So they used to bring in a scheduling crew of about 8 people at 4 a.m. because they needed to get their schedule reports out by 7. So they would bring these people in, they would do the updates, and then, you know, because they needed to use P6, of course, and then they didn't really have much other work to do because there were 8 of them. The analysis just, you know, was done by, you know, a group of them, and then they were trying to find things to do for the rest of the day. So really, they kind of had some wasted time there. So now they're getting things more quickly. They're getting that progress in more quickly, and they're able to bring in less people. As a result, they're using TAPS in all of their refineries now. They're finding that it is 3 times faster for them to update their progress. And they have a variety of ways of who puts in that progress. They have foremen do it. They have some data entry clerks in some places, and in some they actually have the schedulers do it. Another great thing is they sold their Mississauga loops plant, to Holly Frontier. Because TAPS was so successful when it was under Suncor, now Holly Frontier is also a customer of ours, using that in several different plants of theirs. Another client, Nova Chemicals. They are a leading producer of styrene and polystyrene. They develop materials for customers worldwide. So several years ago, they had a few turnarounds that went badly. And so they set out to find out how they could improve it. So they went out into the industry and looked at what other people were doing that they were not doing. And as a result, one of the things they did was purchase several Emerald tools, and that would be TAPS, as well as the P6 loader tool that I mentioned earlier. And now they use these tools extensively to ensure that their turnarounds are successful. So we've had a couple of really great case studies that we have for TAPS. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. I see that we do have a few questions in there already. I'll take the first one, I guess. I have a question here that says, how many activities did you do in that update in 45 minutes? I spoke about at one of the turnarounds I was in that they had 2 schedulers who were doing the updates, and they were doing them under 45 minutes. The stack that came in the morning was about as high as a ream of paper. And I would say there were probably 7, and was a ream of paper, probably 100, 7. So probably between, right around 1,000, I would say, because, some are going to have, more on them and things like that. But I would say 1,000, maybe a little bit more of those activities that were done in 45 minutes. And keep in mind that sometimes they had to stop because they were still waiting. They got ahead of people turning them in. And so they would be scanning, and they'd get to a point where it was like, okay, we need some more. And then, another supervisor would come in. So that would include, a few minutes here and there waiting for those to actually come in, those progress reports to come in. Mary Lynn, I'll let you answer the second one. And I can just read it if you want, and then Mary Lynn, I'll let you answer that. So for resource scanning, we can give a crew leader the ability to get us the hours as they go, and we don't have to wait for their time cards for the day. Might be one advantage.
You definitely do have that option. Yes, definitely.
So, and then the other one, this was a comment. Steps would be great for inspection checklists. Absolutely. Just to make sure that each one of those inspections is done and that they are marked off, and we know what the status of those are.
Yes, and I've been on a number of turnarounds where, especially in the shutdown startup phases, there is checklists on a lot of the activities in there.
Okay. And can you cancel steps as well?
Yes, you can.
So yes, that's and those same kinds of fields are maintained, correct? So those are also stored so that if you did need to bring that canceled work back, you do have that information.
Yes.
I'm not sure. What do you understand the question here? This last question that I'm seeing, I could use that in.
I believe they're referring to commissioning startup.
Oh, okay. So it could be used in commissioning and startup. Absolutely, yes. Oh, commissioning. Yep, that's what it was. So yes, you could do that. And like I said, it's not just something that you have to use on a turnaround. It's not just for turnarounds. You can use it in other applications, in other types of schedules. So I'm going to give just a few more minutes if you have any additional questions to put in here. And if not, we'll go ahead and wrap things up. I'm going to display the information on how to get a hold of us. We have phone numbers up there on the screen. North America, we have Philippines as well as Australia. And if you have any questions or would like to speak further about TAPS, we have Mary Lynn's information there so that she can answer your questions for you. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we have one more question. How does Primavera P6 and TAPS, how are they working together simultaneously? So all of our tools with Emerald use the API or web services that are included in P6 itself. So you don't have to have a full license to use it. You can do just the API license. So if you had, your clerks or whatever that didn't really need full access to P6, you could just buy a much cheaper API license for them, and then they could do the scanning and the submitting of that progress. But it does go through the API or web services. Okay, let's see if there's any other. And so also the security in P6 is adhered to. So even if you do have, somebody who does have access to P6, they're only going to have the security to update and things that they actually have access to. So if they are closed down, if they're only there for that one project or that one schedule or one turnaround, you can lock them down to just those pieces in P6, as well as that security is going to translate over into TAPS itself. Another question, can it work on more than one project at a time? Absolutely. Those barcode, I guess, the barcodes in themselves are unique between every activity that you have out there. So you may have maybe 3 or 4 different projects, maybe more, or schedules that are involved on your in your turnaround. You can print those all out, and the barcode, you print them all out on one sheet, say maybe, you know, a 2-day look ahead or day look ahead, whatever. And then as you scan them, it is going to scan that progress into the proper project. So yes, you can use it on more than one project at a time. Okay. So with that, I am not seeing any more questions coming through. I'd like to thank you for attending. And again, reach out to us if you have any further information or further questions for us, or if you would like more information on the TAPS tool. Thank you for attending.